Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1 Million by 1 Million, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for startups. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we've been doing these roundtables, these free mentoring roundtables, year after year after year. This is the 409th episode. So we have, you could say we have a bit of experience in doing this at this point, and obviously you have liked it and you have come for years and years and years. We've had more than 75,000 people participate in these sessions, and it's been fascinating to learn what all of you guys in different parts of the world are doing by way of entrepreneurship. It's been absolutely incredible learning. Now, this event is being recorded. You will find this roundtable recording as well as all prior roundtable recordings on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. And if you are joining us on Twitter today and live tweeting, please use hashtag 1M1M. Our Twitter handles are at 1M1M and at Stromana. Please follow those. We do publish very interesting content through those as well. Now, this is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we do want you to participate. And these are the call-in numbers. We're not quite ready for call-in yet, but we will be, and you'll have a chance to call in. We are going to start today with a conversation with Dafina Toncheva, partner at USVP of a long-term venture firm in Silicon Valley. USVP has been around for a very long time. Dafina would tell us more about it. Welcome, Dafina. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to join you guys and be part of the event today.
So tell us a bit about yourself as well as USVP and where is the investment focus today? I know USVP has a long history. You've been in all different corners of the technology universe. So tell us where you are today.
Right. So currently we're investing in early stage software and healthcare, and that has been focused for us pretty much for the entire life of the firm. And you're right, we are one of the first firms in the Valley. The firm is 37 years old, and it has had 11 funds. We're currently investing out of Fund 11. There have been 3 generations of investors and a lot of institutional knowledge built over the years. Something that I feel particularly proud of and grateful for as someone who has been on the platform for 5 years.
And where did you come from, Dafina? A little bit about your personal background.
Sure. So originally I'm from Bulgaria. That's the accent you're probably detecting. Yeah. I moved here in the United States in '98, exactly 20 years ago. I went to college here. It was the reason for the move. I studied computer science and applied math. Ended up working as a developer for a few years on Microsoft on security projects. And joined business school, Stanford, in 2006. And it was after business school that, somewhat by accident, I ended up in venture capital. I was recruited to Venrock by the managing partner at the time. His name is Ray Rothrock. He recruited me into their 2-year-long program for principals. And his request was to help him with his security portfolio. He was investing in security over 20 years. He had a portfolio of about 8 to 10 companies of various stages. And he recruited me in order to assist develop that portfolio, also help with new investments, due diligence on the technical side, and anything else that I could be of help with. He promised to teach me anything he could about venture, which I thought was a great deal for me. So right out of business school, I joined Venrock, and I stayed there for a couple of years. I got very lucky. I made a few investments there that sort of put me on the radar, I would say, of other venture firms. So I got recruited out of Venrock. I spent a year and a half in a seed stage fund, so I learned a lot about the seed stage market. And over the last 5.5 years almost, I have been here at USVP, which in some ways is similar to Venrock. It's a firm with long history in the Valley, with many years of experience and early stage investing in software as well as some healthcare investments.
So what is the current 11th USVP fund? What is the size, and what check sizes are you writing these days?
So the fund is $300 million. About 70%, 75% of that money goes towards software investments. And for us, that is the enterprise SaaS applications. For us, that's also security, cybersecurity investments, and some consumer investments. And the remaining 25% or so of the capital goes for healthcare and healthcare IT investments. We're very selective as we make investments in a few medical device companies, maybe one or two biotech when we find very compelling opportunities, and as I mentioned, IT investments that kind of redefine the healthcare sector. Our check sizes are traditional Series A. We write anywhere between $5 to $7 million checks. We lead financing, traditional Series A financings, which today are defined as financings between $5 to almost $10 million rounds, total rounds. We always take a board seat. We always lead. We try to buy to secure mostly somewhere around close to 20% ownership. And we stay with the investment with the company until exit. We set aside reserves so that we continue to be supportive partners. And for us, it's very important to be partners to the management team, not just investors, but also business partners. That's something we pride ourselves in.
So one small, detailed question.
Sure.
So, one of the issues of the current venture capital ecosystem is that Series A financings have become larger, right? So there's a class of VCs that have developed who are doing the smaller Series A checks, the 2 million, 3 million Series A checks, and then you are doing the traditional venture capital, and you want to put in 5 to 10 million. Now, if an entrepreneur wants just 5 million Series A, would you do that round fully as a solo investor?
Yes, I would love that. I think it's everyone less for the founder. I think capital tends to, or appropriate amount of capital, let me put it that way. Having the appropriate amount of capital keeps everyone disciplined, makes us more focused on achieving milestones that will set the company up for success for the next round, and ultimately also is less dilutive for the founder, which I think is important as we think about keeping everybody motivated and building a company for the long run. So yeah, we will definitely lead a Series A financing that is on the smaller side. We've led a Series A financing as small as 4 million. We think, these days, you're right, these days things have changed quite a bit. And so what used to be a traditional Series A, which was a $3 to $5 million financing, now kind of edges towards a large seed, right? And the seed market itself got so disrupted that you have the pre-seed, which used to be the traditional seed, now it's called pre-seed, the few $100,000 financings. Now traditional seed is $2 to $3 million rounds, and what we call early stage financing has been pushed up, to your point, to be $5 to $8 million Series A financing.
So let's talk a little bit. I'm going to go into a few different, again, fund-related details, but you have a deep experience in cybersecurity. Ray recruited you in Venrock for your cybersecurity expertise.
That's right.
You have continued to invest in cybersecurity for many years now. Can you give us an overview?
I started in cybersecurity before it was popular before so many other investors.
But to be fair, cybersecurity has been probably one of the table stakes of venture capital for its entire history.
Yes.
Companies have continued to invest in cybersecurity throughout the history of venture capital in the last 30 years. So it is one of the most invested categories of venture capital, which is where I'm going with this question. How do you, it's so crowded. This market is so incredibly crowded. How do you, what is your, methodology or map in your head on how you invest, how you think about cybersecurity investment? And I know it's a convoluted question. You can take as much time as you need.
I like it. No, I think it's an important question and something we think about a lot here. So there are several answers maybe to your question, different angles. So number one, you're right, it is a crowded space. And one thing that I have noticed over the years as I've made security investments is that nuances matter a lot. On the outside, every security company has the same marketing message. They all protect the data or the user or the enterprise assets, or the network. So there's like strictly speaking, 3 or 4 different marketing messages. But then, as you pointed out, there's thousands of companies. So nuances in this industry matter a lot. Different ways of approaching the problem and solving it. That's where I would say the art of investing in securities, in being technical and understanding the right approach, the differentiated approach to solving the problem. So having technical background has really helped me. Having stayed close to the space for many years also helps in assessing opportunities and finding what's truly differentiated out there. It's a highly fragmented market. There are many point solutions, many companies that solve a small part of the problem and do it really well. But and while that's interesting, it doesn't necessarily lead to companies that can grow to be billion-dollar opportunities. And that is okay. It's just that we as investors tend to look for companies that can grow to be beyond 500 million, $1 billion perhaps market cap opportunities. So it starts there with understanding the landscape and the holes that create opportunities for new players to come in and redefine the space. We are very selective. I think what helps us here is USVP has been investing in cybersecurity for 20 years. Our track record just in the last 15 years is 7.7x on returns in security. So I like to believe we know how to pick the winners. We almost have, I don't think we have ever had a single loss in security. Not one of our companies has been a write-off. Not that losses are always avoidable. In fact, every stage venture is defined also by losses. But in security for us, it has been this 20-year lucky streak. And I think being associated with success, it really helps with deal flow. We were the very first investors in Checkpoint, which to this day is the largest security, one of the largest security companies in the world. We were investors in Imperva, which is another public company. Investors in Trusteer, we were the only investors in Trusteer. Speaking of a company that would lead only a Series A, they raised $5 million from USVP and never raised again. They sold for $650 million to IBM. So we, by making investments, we stayed close to the entrepreneurial community there, gotten to know the experts in the space, and that really helps us evaluate opportunities, stay close to the market, and understand the trends there, which I think is critical to making good investments that drive outside returns for our institutional investors.
So one thing that we're hearing, so we have this, I don't know if you've seen it on our blog, we have a Thought Leaders in Cybersecurity series, and actually Ray has been on it with he's running a company these days, no longer a venture capitalist, right? So, so in that series, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, if you put yourself in the shoes of a CISO, right, Chief Information Security Officer, you have to make decisions about what vendors to work with, and there are hundreds of vendors coming with hundreds of point solutions, and it's really a complicated job. And to turn that situation around, one of the, let's say your portfolio companies or our portfolio companies that's working in security, it's very difficult to get these meetings, get actually bought as a solution. How are your companies dealing with this, and what are you advising your companies to do?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and that goes back to me saying that there are thousands of companies that have similar marketing message. So on the outside, they all more or less look the same. So it's very important to think about the differentiation. It's important for me as an investor to think about it as I select companies to deploy capital in. But it's also very important for the founders to think about what truly differentiates and makes their product stand out among others. I think it really starts with the technology, with the understanding the problem space. I've been lucky to be part of security companies where while sales cycles have been long, differentiation has not been an issue. But I think that's, again, it's really important where you focus your energy as a founder and what you select as a problem space to solve. I recently, just very recently, invested in a company in the anti-fraud and abuse space, and you know, I've never seen this amount of traction for a security company. They'll grow from 0 to 4 million in 1 year, which usually takes about 2.5 to 3 years for a security company to do. Exactly. Security, usually the way it grows is companies do about, successful companies book about $1 million in year 1, 2 million in year 2, 4 million in year 3. And this doubling is what defines their success. The reason why this initial ramp takes a little bit longer is because sales cycles are long. They're usually 6 to 9 months, but the deal sizes are big. So this company that I'm talking about, they're going after the anti-fraud space, and that is such a prevalent problem. Specifically what they do is they try to recognize humans from bots. And in doing so, they prevent fake account creation, which we all have heard about as an issue with social media, but also with banks, with the retail sector. They're trying to prevent account takeover. Really at the core of their technology, they're trying to be the best at identifying a human from a machine, which is very, very important for businesses that run online where the interaction is anonymous in many ways, and you don't know who is on the other side of the computer. So, like I said, with that company, they're going after a problem that's very well understood by the customer. That is a real and critical pain point that there's budget for to solve, and that is top of mind. So my recommendation for entrepreneur is the entrepreneur thinking about starting a security company is understand very well the priority of the problem that you're trying to solve relative to the customer. As you pointed out, CISOs have like 100 things to think about, but usually they focus on the top 3. That's where the budget goes, that's where the time, the resources go after. So if you're solving a must-have, if you're solving a top 3 problem, then you probably will be fine. You will find the budget, you will get the attention, and ultimately there will be market for the solution. The issues are that founders sometimes run into is when they think of something as an important problem to solve, but the customer has put it really down on the priority stack, and they either don't have budget for or don't think about it day in and day out. The other issue that sometimes happens, and I think we as investors need to be very careful about, is sometimes entrepreneurs, they're very smart. They are ahead of the market. Entrepreneurs will think of a problem which will truly be a problem, but only maybe 2 years from now. And so getting the attention and getting people to listen to describe an issue which they are not currently experiencing, but will in the future, can be a real challenge. And for those founders, my advice is you need to wait for the market. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to create markets. But if you're very clever about how you manage your capital, how you manage the company's burn rate, you can wait that out and slowly and gradually engage with the market and the early adopters who think about these issues. So that's a long answer to your question, but there's just a different way to think about it.
We are very much on the same page. That's roughly what we talk about in all our deals as well. And we see security, lots of security all the time.
Oh, that's great.
Let's talk a little bit.
I would love to see some of those companies. It's not only my job, but it's a hobby. I love it. I love security, and I love thinking about new ways of solving existing and growing problems in the cyberspace.
So very good, and let's build on that and understand your geographical preferences. Are you investing only in Silicon Valley, or are you investing more broadly?
Yeah, you know, it's a good question. So interestingly, when it comes to cybersecurity, we like Israel a lot, and it's an area that we have been investing in also for 20 years. And it started with Check Point, which is where the company's headquarters are, and
there are lots of great security companies in Israel.
That's right, exactly. They have they have a lot of the training required to understand and build a set of problem and build a solution. So we invest in Israel. Most of our investments are in the United States. The one exception, as I mentioned, is Israel. Within the United States, we have made investments, obviously, in the Valley, but we've made investments also in LA. We've made investments in New York and Atlanta, Utah. So we've been sort of all over the place. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. I more and more like companies out of the Valley. I think that they have a competitive advantage, believe it or not, in some ways, especially companies that have business presence in the Valley but R&D outside of the Valley. The Silicon Valley has become very competitive when it comes to resources, and companies can outsource their development and engineering somewhere else where talent is slightly less expensive, perhaps more loyal because there isn't so much competition for employees. I think can be a true competitive advantage for the business.
Yes, I agree.
The company I was talking about earlier, the company, the anti-fraud and abuse company, started in Australia. We waited until the company flipped the business entity to a U.S. entity, but their entire R&D team is still in Brisbane, Australia, and I think that's great. They raised $5–6 million, and it's going to last them a long time because development resources in Brisbane, Australia are about 60% of the cost of development resources here, and development resources there are very, very good. So I think having R&D outside of the Bay Area, I see as beneficial, almost preferred, and I like to find companies with that kind of setup to invest in. But I in general also find companies outside of the Bay Area to be very compelling, and there's something really cool about being outside of the noise. You know, everybody talks about the benefits of being in the Valley, and there are many of them, of course. But there's also benefits to being outside, which is you can focus on your business, avoid the noise, avoid the hype. Perhaps even stay away from the competition and just really concentrate on what's most important, which is building a product and delighting the customer, I guess. Yeah.
And so obviously, you know, our accelerator is global, so we do see global deals, and we're always interested in investors who are willing to take that as an advantage, as a competitive advantage, and all the things that you talked about are very much in sync with our philosophy and modus operandi.
You know, I advise companies in Europe. I am Bulgarian, as I mentioned, so I go there once a year to Bulgaria to speak to at least once a year, to speak to the entrepreneurial community there. And as a result, I've gotten in touch with many other entrepreneurs within Eastern Europe. And my advice to them always is that many, not all, but many, the majority of the venture firms in the Valley will consider investing in a company started abroad, as long as the executive team or at least the founder moves to the U.S. R&D can be kept abroad, but moving the founder to and some of the business side of the company to the United States really de-risks the opportunity, at least in the mind of the investor, and makes the just more attractive.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more actually from Europe these days. We have some interesting partnerships underway in Europe, so you'll hear about that in due course. Now, the other question I have about the other aspect of your investment that you talked about, healthcare IT being a focus. Can you elaborate on that a bit? We do have a lot of healthcare IT activity as well these days.
Yeah, it isn't my necessarily area of focus. I help with companies in that space. Two of my other partners focus on healthcare and healthcare IT, but I'm happy to talk a little bit about it. What we look for in healthcare IT companies are, the way we think about them is IT companies just happen to solve business problems usually within the healthcare space. At least those are the companies that I personally would get involved with. I think of them as vertical SaaS. Now, that being said, my partners also would look at healthcare IT companies as companies like digital diagnostics, for example. We have a company called HeartFlow, which it's an incredibly exciting company. It has developed a novel way of diagnosing coronary heart disease, which today is done in a very invasive way. It's done through a hospital visit. Usually the patient is put through a full anesthesia, and a needle is kind of goes through the artery all the way to the heart to evaluate the health of the organ. This company takes a CT scan of the heart and sends it to the cloud, where it's being analyzed by just algorithms. And within an hour, the patient gets to know, and the doctor, what the state is. And usually it is more effective, we have discovered, than the invasive in-hospital procedure. So HeartFlow is an incredibly exciting company because this is a multi-billion-dollar market, not just in the U.S., but abroad as well. And it ultimately really improves lives of patients by reducing the need for about 50%, by the way, about 50% of these procedures today are unnecessary. But because because coronary heart disease can be fatal, doctors prefer to go the safer route of assigning the procedure to patients who might be at risk. So imagine if 50% of the patients who today have to go through this very invasive procedure just don't go through it because thanks to HeartFlow, through a simple CT scan, they know how likely they are to have a coronary heart disease. So we look at digital diagnostics. We look at digital health. We have a company called Omada, which helps prevent diabetes very effectively. In fact, works with large employers to help their employee base lose weight, get a healthier lifestyle, and avoid diabetes. So we have different areas that we're looking at. My specialty, as I mentioned, my focus is more on the business side of things, how hospitals can run better, or how various business processes can be automated through technology to make doctors or other medical staff more effective. That's what my personal focus would be when it comes to space.
So you invest in both healthcare IT and cybersecurity, and your partners invest in more the life sciences angle of it.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
I actually invest in cybersecurity and enterprise applications would be my main focus. Healthcare IT is a relatively new area. Enterprise applications for me are, as I mentioned, the vertical SaaS applications. I mean, horizontal SaaS applications as well, but mostly just business process automation software for various verticals.
Now, what are the trends in your portfolio, Dafina, right now? I know everybody is talking about AI and everybody's talking about blockchain. Can you, if you look at the last 18 months of what you've seen, are there nuggets that you could share that are overriding trends?
So it's a difficult question to answer because it's, again, pretty broad. It kind of depends on the angle, I guess. First of all, there is a lot of deal flow. Let's start by saying that the seed market has exploded. There are over 200 firms that write seed stage checks, which as a result has produced 4,000 or 5,000 companies a year that are seed stage. So the sheer amount of deal flow is probably worth discussing within itself, which makes it really competitive for seed stage companies in a way, because the Series A capital is not as available as the seed stage capital. So in a way, by creating so many seed funds, the ecosystem has also made it very competitive for the seed companies to continue to build and compete for Series A. Another trend probably worth noting to that point is that seed companies today that I see in kind of in my deal flow, these are companies post-seed and pre-Series A, are getting more and more traction early on, and that is a reflection of the larger size rounds that we're seeing. So if a company raises, $500K seed versus a $3 million seed, of course they'll have different business development. The status of the business will be very different, and because more and more companies are raising slightly larger seed rounds, we see a lot more traction. A traditional Series A company today would demonstrate anywhere between $1 million to $2 million, sometimes even $3 million run rate if it's a SaaS business. I think that's another very interesting trend. What I like also seeing is how all these sleepy industries are getting really attention, and entrepreneurs are building kind of cheap software to address business problems there. Logistics is getting a lot of attention. Real estate is getting a lot of attention. These are massive industries that for a long time hadn't changed. I invested in a company in the construction space. If you think about construction, it's one of the most conservative industries in a way, because the construction workers are not necessarily tech savvy or early adopters. So it's nice to see that now software is so broadly used, technology in general is so broadly used and adopted that even industries like railroads or construction, travel can get attention and get disrupted by technology. I saw a company that was building back-end office support for moving companies. I mean, think about that. Like how sleepy is that? Is that kind of industry, where guys that own a lot of trucks move business?
So, my observation about that trend also is some of these are great niche businesses. They're not necessarily venture scale businesses. They don't have the TAM to be a venture scale business or the growth rate to be a venture scale business, but they would be wonderful bootstrap businesses.
That's right, exactly. Or get funding from someone else, right? I think it's always very important to think about who the right business partner and financing partner is, given the kind of business that you want to build. Many, as you said, many founders just grow them organically. Some just get money from angel investors, friends and family. Or the customers. I always think that that's the best way to fund a business is get non-dilutive capital from your customer by pre-selling the solution before you completely build it.
Totally our philosophy. Totally our philosophy. We have a company in the portfolio right now, actually a healthcare IT company on the business process side, that is probably going to do somewhere between 4.75 or to 5 million with no outside financing.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Can I talk to them?
Yes.
That's incredible. Usually what you see is that in these cases you get companies that have some element of consulting, or at least started that way.
Yes, exactly.
Some service component to it that leads to that amount of.
We in fact have a methodology that we use in the program called bootstrapping using services. So you do consulting and start getting close to the customers, start developing the product, use that as your seed capital, build the product, and then gradually switch the business to primarily a software business.
Yep, exactly. There you go. I think that's another perfectly fine way to start a company, and usually a non-dilutive way, which works very well for the founders. I mean, the challenge there sometimes is switching cultures from consulting and service-oriented business to more of a productized product company can be challenging, but everything has its own pluses and minuses. So good for them.
Well, if you start with the intent of doing that, then you start with that. Like we're going to take a few projects that are going to be our seed capital, and then we are building towards a product company. That I think is that stating that intent right up front actually addresses some of those issues. Now, my last question is that you have talked about Checkpoint right at the beginning. Now, Checkpoint is a relatively older investment of USVP. How about your investments? What are you really proud of? What are the highlights of your portfolio? And why? What is it about those companies that make you particularly proud and happy about them?
Sure. You know, it's funny. I like all my investments, even the ones that didn't work out. I like.
All your children are equally good.
That's worth investing in, I guess, at the time. But maybe one that I should mention that's kind of top of mind today in particular is a security company called Privacy. A lot of unusual things about that company. I invested in them 3 years ago. It's an LA-based company. Speaking of geography, you know, you don't see many security companies out of LA. So that was maybe a warning sign for some of my partners at the time. It's like, hey, why are we investing in a security company in LA? We make those investments in Israel or in New York or in San Francisco, but not in LA. That's not the place you think about when you talk about cybersecurity. But I found the company very compelling. It was building real-time application security. And we invested 3 years ago, and it was a wild ride in some ways. You know, the market was early, so we had to wait it out. We had to wait for it to develop. The founders had to deal with a really unpleasant founder lawsuit, which nearly cost us our lives, because the company's life, because it was very expensive and it took a long time and it impacted us all. And the guys just persevered. They kept finding the right early adopters. They were very clear on the value proposition, and the technology was really incredible. The customers who were on the service were very excited and happy. And get this, they were all prepaying 3 years up front, and these were large contracts. Wow. So what happened was the company just announced 3 days ago that it's getting acquired. It is getting acquired by Imperva, which is a public company out here. And we used to be the Series A investor in Imperva. We were the first institutional investor there. We are no longer affiliated with Imperva. We long ago stopped being on the board, and the initial team that we backed is not at the company anymore. But that was a company in our portfolio 3 funds ago. And so Imperva announced on Thursday that it is buying Privacy. It will be a great success story for the company. So yeah, so I'm really happy with that one. I'm very proud of the guys for how they managed themselves in the business over the last 3 years. And perhaps another company that's worth mentioning that I'm very proud of, and which was my second investment as a venture capitalist, is Cloudflare. I led the seed round in Cloudflare. It was $1.5 million round. I was at Venrock at the time. We took the entire round. We led it as a almost traditional seed round, a traditional early stage Series A round. And the company now is over $2 billion in market cap and doing well over $150 million in sales. And that was just less than 8 years ago. So that is probably one of the most successful companies that I have been involved with, and I'm incredibly proud of the team, which took it from literally zero to being probably the largest CDN company, one of the largest CDN companies in the world today. And that was the founder from Park City, Utah.
Yeah, Utah is actually producing a lot of entrepreneurs. We are seeing a lot of Utah companies and some very good ones. Pluralsight has been an excellent success story. Qualtrics has been an excellent success story. Of course, it all started with Omniture, but Utah has become quite a hub now. And they do bootstrapping very well.
I love stuff. I love going to Utah. I love the entrepreneur community there. It is very I think it's a vibrant place and a lot of great talent there. So I enjoy spending time there and learning from the guys, the entrepreneurs in Salt Lake and the surrounding area.
Dafina, I have one last question before I let you go about women and entrepreneurship. What is your perspective? I mean, there's been a lot of discussion on this topic. There's a lot of different points of view. How do you synthesize what is going on and what is your perspective? Is there bias? Is there?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm really glad to see so many positive changes. Women entrepreneurs are getting more funding. They're getting more attention. Women investors are also getting more attention and more airtime, which I think is great. We've made a lot of progress over the last few years. When I went to college, I was one of maybe a handful of women that studied computer science and applied math. And when I went to Microsoft, I was I think, the only woman on a team of 50. It's nice to see things changing and more women being part of the entrepreneurial community, but also part of the venture community. And I think we just need, just like in anything else, we need more successes that can motivate more women to join, and also more successes tend to place the focus, the attention on women in those areas. So we're going through interesting times, and I'm excited for the changes ahead of us and the changes that are already getting implemented that are helping everybody get. I think that everybody gets to benefit from more women in venture or more women in technology and more female entrepreneurs. The diversity of thought that brings is beneficial to everyone involved.
Yes, I think I don't know what years you were in computer science programs in the U.S. Higher education system. I was at MIT in the 1993 to 95 time frame. In the master's program, I was actually a PhD student, but I started a company and I left. But at that time, we had obviously very few women, and there were, that number has improved. And at MIT, at least, the women in computer science numbers improved greatly. And I think in general, women in computer science has improved. And I think that is really the core issue. Unless there are women trained in technology and who have gone through the real technology programs, you can't really expect them to go start technology companies. That's not going to happen.
Yes, exactly. I think, no, that's right. I was at Harvard between 98 and 2002, and it wasn't it wasn't significantly better. I mean, there were probably more women than at the time when you were at MIT, but it wasn't significantly better. I think the numbers are looking much better these days.
Much better, yeah. Much better.
And I personally mentor and coach a lot of women at various stages in their careers. Some are, in college. Some are starting companies or thinking about joining the investment community. And it's really nice to see. I think it starts with them being interested in it, fighting for it, and then the community being accepting, which I think is changing a lot. And that's what gives me so much hope that things will be better, even better in the future.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, on that note, on that very positive, optimistic note, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, and I do hope we're going to start working together on some actual deals and do some companies
Thank
together.
you so much for having me. Thank you to your audience, and good luck with everything. Thank you for having me over. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. All right, folks. Bye-bye. We are going to switch to the more entrepreneur conversation section. Now, I'm going to actually skip over Rahul's slides for a moment and give you the context of 1Mby1M first, so you know how to use the program, and then we'll come to other there's some technical issues today. WebEx has changed their interface, so you may be having difficulty joining or seeing things and so forth. So Rahul is having difficulty joining in as well. So let me give you the 1Mby1M context, and then we'll go straight to Q&A. So all the resources from 1Mby1M are going to be available at 1Mby1M.com. So the kinds of things we were talking about with Dafina just now, like this methodology of bootstrapping using services, which is allowing companies to get to, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million revenue run rates without outside financing or with very little outside financing. These are worth understanding as early stage entrepreneurs for you. And all that is part of our methodology and the curriculum that we teach through the program. Now, you can start your journey on the blog, which is free, and we do have, continuous flow of great content, case studies, etc. on the blog. The book series there are 12 books on under the Entrepreneur Journeys series title, and each of these are 12 to 16 case studies plus analysis and commentary. And as you can see, Bootstrapping Using Services is a book as well, so you can learn the methodology through that book also. We even have Bootstrapping with a Paycheck, just because there is, there are certain amounts of bootstrapping needs that you do have. We always are very creative about finding ways to bootstrap your companies so that you can have successful financing round if you choose to go that route. So bootstrap first, raise money later generally works a lot better in the way the venture capital business works. These roundtables happen every week. You can come to any of these roundtables almost every week. Beyond that, we have our full acceleration program, which is 1M by1M Premium. You can get extensive methodology guidance, a full curriculum, online curriculum that you can access at your own time, own schedule. We help you with business development. We help you with strategy consulting in roundtables like these, but they're private sessions for our premium members only. And we help you with financing and media relations as well. Go to the website and do the self-assessment. This is a set of questions that we want you to work through as your strategic planning process. It's really important to be able to answer these questions, to have a good, solid, robust plan of execution. If you run into methodology gaps as you're trying to answer those questions, you can use 1M by1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only subscription, and that would help you plug those methodology gaps. So dig around on the website. There's plenty of information about what to expect from Premium, Basic, the free offerings, etc. There's lots of FAQs, video FAQs, description of the curriculum. We are a case study-based program. We have over 800 case studies, 50+ unicorns, 400+ VC-funded companies, 350+ bootstrapped entrepreneurs, and there's a tremendous amount of knowledge that has accumulated on the platform because so many entrepreneurs have generously shared how they have been successful. So that's it. We can do some questions. So for those of you in the room, if you like, use the public chat to ask questions, and I'll pick up your questions from public chat and answer them. We have one more free roundtable next week on Tuesday. Usually our roundtables are Thursdays. These next two roundtables are adjusted a little bit because I am leaving for India on the 8th, and I'll be back on the 23rd. So on 7th of August, Tuesday, you have the 410th roundtable, and then we have a bit of a gap, and then 24th of August, Friday, we have the 411th roundtable. And then we have August 30th, usual Thursday morning roundtable. So that's just FYI. We also have two more rendezvous in August. Tuesday, August 7th at 8 p.m. Pacific time, we have a rendezvous. And then August 29, 5 p.m., also at Cafe Boroni, is the one after that. So that's it. We are happy to take questions. And let me also introduce you to Irina Patterson. Her email is irina@1mby1m.com. You can contact Irina with any questions about the program. Anybody with any questions, please either type your questions into public chat or dial into the line, and happy to answer any questions. Roundtable is a little bit shorter today, and we've had some technical issues due to WebEx's platform change, and we're going to sort that out right after this call with WebEx support. So Maureen, after we finish, let's stay on the line, you and I, and with WebEx support, and sort out the camera issues and other issues. So I don't see questions. If you don't have questions, then we're going to adjourn, and we'll meet you back again. Actually, we have very soon another roundtable coming up on Tuesday. So either we'll talk more at that roundtable or talk more at the rendezvous the same evening, Tuesday evening, before I take off for my travels. So see you soon, and goodbye for today. We'll see you back next week.